Last week I inexplicably got two T-Rex Transformers, both with clear red parts and swords. So here's the video review of Generation's Fall of Cybertron Grimlock. I think you guys have probably figured out at this point that anything Beastformer I'm at least mildly interested in. I was really stoked to get this guy, but upon getting him out of the box, I realized he's actually not all that great. At first glance, he looks really good. His colors are great. He's a perfect G1 homage to the original Grimlock. Does all the things a Grimlock needs to. He's got legs that become arms, tail that becomes legs, the mouth plate face, the altered Autobot symbol, red plastic everywhere, and a bitchin' sword. But if you don't back that stuff up with quality, you really don't have a good figure, and that's kind of what we're looking at here. First problem that really kicks things off is the fact that this entire thing is almost completely hollow. The insides of the shoulders, the back, the legs. I really wouldn't mind the shelf kibble so much if there wasn't just this big empty gap where it probably could be hiding better. And there's nothing you can do with this. It's just there. There's no folding it up. The T-Rex head doesn't fold in anymore. And another seemingly shoddy homage to the original Grimlock, the dinosaur head really doesn't do anything in robot mode, which is a shame. But you'll find out it's not as much of a shame as you might think, considering how terrible the dinosaur head is. Sad thing is, Transmetal Megatron did almost exactly the same thing with its T-Rex head, but it just works so much better. This Grimlock seems to only hold the weight that the original Shellformer flaps did, which is very disappointing. And it's really sad because this thing has a lot of really fantastic paint apps, and the clear plastic on this thing is amazing. There's even a little bit of light piping inside of his chest. The sculpting's dead on, but posability on this thing is just terrible. First of all, the legs don't really hold together very well. They just sort of peg in on the tip of the tail at the base of his leg, and don't really hold together very well. When posing them, they often come off of their peg. Really hard to get back together. The arms aren't too bad until you get to the shoulder, where they have these really weird set of joints that are really hard to pose and make it seem like this thing's going to break a lot sooner than it should. They also don't stay in position very well. There's a lot of joints that go into these shoulders, and despite that fact, they're not terribly posable. I haven't seen a T-Rex Transformer this bad since Transmetal Brokentron. And granted, this one probably isn't going to crumble as easily, but it's just one big hollow mess that doesn't pose very well, doesn't hold together very well, and really just isn't as great as it looks in the box. Grimlock looks fantastic as long as he's just going to sit on your shelf and not do anything, but if you have any interest in posing him or not breaking him in half, I don't know. I don't think he's your guy. Didn't you learn anything from Transmetal Megatron? On top of the fact that most of his body parts are hollow, there's a whole bunch of hollow cutouts in his chest. Some of them were for the light piping, but others are just there. And a lot of the light piping doesn't even fit properly. In fact, I'm just noticing now that there are two in here that aren't even in position. And they're not going into position. Yeah, this thing is really shoddy. I know there are those of you out there that are watching this review like, oh, it can't honestly be that bad. No, it really can. Unfortunately, Generation Soundwave spoiled me with its quality and its size and its fantastic transformation, because this thing has none of those things. Well, except for the size. Although I guess as a bonus, this one came with the weapons it said it was supposed to. About the only thing that's better on this toy than Voyager Soundwave is his clear plastic feels a little bit stronger and looks quite a bit better. But considering that that's mostly just on his sword and shield, it really doesn't count for the figure. The figure just sucks. The accessories he comes with range from okay to great. First of all, the shield, it's just not doing it for me. I don't care how accurate or inaccurate it may be to the game model, it's just not very good. But the sword is awesome. It looks like Doru Goromon's wings. Now there's an obscure reference for you. The sword just looks great. It's serrated and it looks like it might even kind of be a chain sword. I don't know. It's just awesome. Whereas they're about both the same size in T-Rex mode, he gains quite a bit of height on Transmetal Megatron in robot mode. So I have two of these now, so I don't have to transform them. Yay! Still love them. I really feel like a lot of the loss here is due to the light up gimmick in Tyrannosaurus Rex mode. And that really just isn't worth having just a crappy figure overall. It's a real shame because I want to like this figure, mainly because I was never willing to get a Grimlock before. I just find him to be the most annoying character ever. All of the Dinobots are just really terrible characters and pretty awful Transformers, so when I saw that there was going to be a good Grimlock, I was like, fuck yeah! Turns out he translates the original Grimlock's crappy character into crappy plastic. I can't really say much else about this figure. It looks really good, but it just isn't. Even though the robot mode kind of sucks because it doesn't hold together very well and most of it's hollow, if it were the worst part of this figure, I would probably still want to keep it, but for what's coming next, just totally makes it not worth it. First of all, the transformation is painfully simple. I mean, you can kind of see how the transformation went. I wouldn't even call it transforming, it just sort of twitches into position. The hardest part really is getting this tail together, which is actually pretty hard the first time. This thing's a shell former in a completely different way, being that the entire thing is just one empty shell. Nothing really pegs together except for the tail, they just sort of set together. Nothing really changes shape. Like, the biggest part of the transformation is the fact that the head folds out, and that's only because they didn't put it anywhere useful in robot mode. And this thing effectively has no posability. You can move the arms as freely as you want to, but the legs, while they have nice knee joints, don't have any hip joints. Yeah, that's right. The robot shoulders lock into place, and then that's it. Which really makes posability an issue, because you gotta bend the knees quite a bit to get him standing straight. He actually rests pretty well on his feet, and I didn't think he was going to, but if you push him down too far, the hands slide out. Taking a break from all the bashing on this thing's posability and lousy transformation, I have to say the sculpting's actually pretty good. I really love this right here. It reminds me of Dark of the Moon Laserbeak. Not that I think it's supposed to, but still, it's nice. I'm not sure how I feel about that visible robot chest right here. I'm not sure it would look so bad if it wasn't the robot chest, but the fact that it is just screams, that isn't supposed to be there. The head sculpt is really bad. Where he looked totally awesome in the game with his fire-breathing capabilities, it just comes off as too thin and narrow here. Which, I know the T-Rex is supposed to have a thin, narrow head, but it feels like it's just supposed to be bigger. I'm not sure if this is a poor rendition of the game model, or if the game model just doesn't translate into plastic very well, but it just doesn't look very good. And the fact that the teeth aren't painted really hurts this thing. While I think the transformation suffers because of this gimmick, I have to admit it's pretty cool that it does the Cave of Wonders thing. Although his mouth doesn't open very much. And you can get it stuck, so you don't have to open his mouth to have it light up. This is less of a chomping attack and more of a casually having a conversation attack. And I gotta be honest, while the glowing eyes and inside of the mouth is cool, this head sculpt just really ruins it. It just doesn't look as good in there as I think it could in a better head. It's a shame that such a wicked gimmick is lost because the head sculpt just isn't very good. Although it's kind of nice that the Autobot symbol lights up there. This thing takes everything that sucked about the robot mode and makes it 10 times worse. Hollow pieces, bad posability. But the one thing that really skyrockets this thing into just a totally crap figure is this horrible tail. It looks like half of it's backwards. This should probably be going the other way, but nothing rotates. This is just how it looks. Very obviously two robot legs there. I gotta give points to the original Grimlock because the T-Rex tail looked like it was supposed to be a tail. And then the legs didn't suffer for it. Whereas this, the legs suck, and the tail looks like crap because the legs suck. So it just translates into the entire figure sucking. So with almost no posability, a lousy T-Rex mode, hollow and painfully put together robot mode, albeit great paint apps, I can't possibly recommend this thing. I'm actually going to take it back to the store because even though I love my dinosaur transformers and there really just aren't enough of them, it just totally isn't worth the money I spent on it. Not in any way. Do yourself a favor, don't even bother buying this. In order to want this toy, you would have to be a die-hard Grimlock fan who only buys every single one of his toys. While this figure could have been an amazing homage to Grimlock, giving him the awesomeness people seem to think he deserves, this figure just doesn't do it, and it's a real shame. I would have welcomed him into my Beastformers with honors.
Meet Grimlock, terrible figure.
This has been the video review of Fall of Cybertron Grimlock, and thank you for watching. Don't get it.